Hi everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video. Now, what do we have in store for you today? Well, we have 4 separate pieces of news. The first one is pretty big. It's the Egwene Audition tapes that WheelTimeSeries.com managed to find. Now, they found them, they watched them, and they transcribed them, which is great because in pure Amazon fashion, they were taken down. So, we'll go through the transcriptions and we'll talk a little bit about where the scenes may fit in the first season if they keep them in at all. Second piece of news is, not really news, but it's more of a fun thing. Yosha Stradowski has been posting on Instagram lately, and some of the pictures he's put up are kind of fun, so we'll talk a little bit about them. One of them may give us our first look at Randall Thor up close, maybe, possibly. Who knows? And then the third piece of news we'll talk about is arguably the biggest piece of news that I've discussed in quite some time on the channel. Now, it has to do with Min and when she's introduced into the first season. And that's all I'll say for now, but when you get to that section of the video, I'm going to be geeking right out and freaking out because I think it's a pretty big deal. Then the final thing we'll talk about is the stunt coordinator that WheelTimeSeries.com recently talked about on their website and their credentials and how they're going to, maybe handle some things based on their experience. All right, so before we get into any of that, spoiler warning, in this video I will be discussing scenes, characters, introductions, and plot arcs from The Eye of the World and some of The Great Hunt. So if you haven't read at least The Eye of the World and the first half of The Great Hunt, be forewarned, I may ruin some of that for you. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get on to the video. So, the first piece of news is the Egwene Audition tapes. First things first, if you haven't read them or seen them, please go to the link in the description box down below. It's WheelTimeSeries.com. They did a fantastic job of transcribing these scenes. Go read them there because I'm not going to act them out here. I tried that. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the scenes, one of the shots I did, and it worked beautifully. No. It was really bad. I'm bad at voices. My Egwene voice especially was really terrible. Maybe in the future I'll try it for you guys, but it didn't work well at all. So, I'm going to discuss a quick summary of each of the scenes and whether or not I think they're going to actually stay in the show, changed or not, and that's pretty much what I'll do with it. Now, before we get to that, I do want to bring up one little piece of information. Now, these callback scenes that we're going to talk about, if you're expecting them to be verbatim in the show, so this is unchanged in the show, you're probably going to be sorely disappointed because these callbacks are usually a couple of different things. One, a section of the script that's in an early write to give the spirit of the characters that could go through multiple revisions afterwards, so they could be completely changed to something, not even noticeably the same later on. Could be something completely different, not even in the show whatsoever, and it just has the spirit of the characters in the scenes for the producers and casting agency to actually take a look and see how people would do as that character. And it could also be kind of in the show. It could be a part of the script that they didn't change too much and keep later on. It could be any of those things. Do I think they're going to change? Yeah. Do I think they'll stay in verbatim? No. Do I think that they're all 100% accurate? No. But it would be kind of neat if one of the scenes kind of stayed in because it ties in with some information we already know. So scene 1 basically just sets the stage for Rand and Egwene's relationship. They have some history. He's been following her around like a lovesick puppy most of his life, picking berries for her when they were small, so to speak. Not real important information in that scene or anything like that, but it does set the stage for their history as a couple, which I think probably should stay in the show in some way, shape, or form, because let's face it, in the books, yes, they were a couple, but it didn't really read that way. At the beginning of the book, they were kind of on the outs immediately. So, there's that. The second scene is, again, another scene with Egwene and Rand, and it seems to be after he's woken up because she didn't wake him, and he's kind of perturbed about that. He talks a little bit about Nynaeve, about how being a wisdom means that, it doesn't make you happy, so to speak, and it seems to be, the whole conversation is around the fact that Egwene is going to be Nynaeve's apprentice, and she's just kind of letting Rand know that now, and he's very shocked. So that's scene 2. Again, will it stay in the series, like in season 1? I don't know. Something similar probably will, though, because being a wisdom is kind of a big deal in that part of the world, and most of them don't marry, most of them don't have boyfriends or children, and that seems to concern Rand in this scene. So that's something they could play up there. Now, the third scene, this one is by far the most important. If you haven't already read the synopsis, please go do so, and then come back here afterwards, and we'll talk about it together. How does that sound? All right, you've done it? All right, very good. In this scene, it's Egwene talking with Moiraine, and it seems to be after they leave Terran Ferry. Because as you know, we had a leaked photo. Well, it's not even a leaked photo. It came out of Brandon Sanderson's newsletter. He put this newsletter out. The photo was in it. It was approved by Amazon. Everything was great until someone decided to strip the metadata from it. And there's a description talking about a scene in Season 1, Episode 2, where, Master Hightower, the Terran Fairy guy, dies. Moraine sort of kills him, so to speak. Big reveal at the time. Everyone was very shocked because that was a big change from the books. He never died in the books. We never seen him again, of course. He's kind of a one-of throwaway character, but it would add some gravitas to the screen, and it was kind of neat. Now, this scene talks about that, and it talks about how Moraine let him die, and he was on a fool's errand, and some other things. So it kind of reinforces the fact that we know that Hightower is dead. So there's a possibility that some of this scene is from the script originally. Now, whether it's changed or not, I don't know, but it could be a part of the show, which is kind of neat. Then they go to talk about the three oaths and explain that a bit too, which is very important to a viewer because as a reader, you eventually get to know that stuff, and it's kind of just discussed and talked about in the books. But as a viewer of a show, you're going to want to know these things right off the hop so you understand Aes Sedai and understand their motivations and what they can and cannot do. So having that in that early in the show, I think would be a good idea. So that scene itself, out of the three scenes, I think is the most likely one that we'll see make it into the show, at least changed a little bit. If unchanged would be great, but if it makes it into the show, I think that would be the best option. All right, so let's get on to the next piece of news. All right, so the next thing we have is Yosha Stradowski posting on Instagram. Again, not huge news, but kind of neat. When I said we might get our first look at Randall Thor, this is what I'm saying. So this seems to be something he's done up. Is it just a headshot of him, not in character? Probably. I mean, some people speculated it's a shot from the show because he put the name Rand above it and whatnot on his little notebook there, but I don't think so. I think he just posted his face there, like pasted it on there. It's like, this is my notebook, I'm Rand. Kind of neat. Then he posted this, the gym weaves as the gym wills. So he's posted a few pictures of himself in the gym, working out, and so is Daniel Henney as well, actually. And that little tidbit there was kind of neat because it shows that he's thinking of Wheel of Time. He knows a little bit about the series, at least. He knows a little bit about the books. It's a good little tidbit call out to the fans, which is nice because a lot of us do follow him on Instagram just to see anything he may post that would give us a hint of what's going on in the show, which is not much, really. All right, so there's that. That's the Yosha Stradowski news. Not a big bunch of news or anything like that, but it is kind of neat. If you don't follow him on Instagram, I've left a link to his Instagram down below in the description box so you can go follow him there and see some of these pictures. All right, let's get on to arguably the most important piece of news we're going to discuss today. All right, so for those of you who don't know, Kay Alexander was cast as Min way back in August, so that's when we found out she was playing Min Farshaw. Now, this was kind of a big deal because people had speculated for quite some time that Min was cut from the series completely, even though Rafe had come right out and said, no, Min is in the series, don't worry about it. She's a fan favorite, of course they're going to keep her. But people were very concerned because they would have filmed scenes in Berlin last fall, or early last fall, because the way they're filming Wheel of Time is kind of chronologically. Now, most television shows and movies will film out of order in whatever way it makes sense financially. So if they're going to film a bunch of scenes in one spot because it makes more sense to do that to save money, they will. It kind of seems that with the Wheel of Time, they're not doing that, at least not a whole lot, because every director is treating their own episodes or bank of episodes, because some directors are filming too, as mini movies. So it's their little domain. They're filming all their own stuff. They're doing all the things. They're given. There's been articles on this, and Rafe has gone on record saying that he's given them a lot of creative freedom. He gives them what they got to do, and they see what's going on before, and they can put their own spin on things, which is great. I mean, giving a director creative freedom is a very good thing, I think, because it allows them to maybe do things that people wouldn't think of that would make the series better. So there's that. But what does this mean for us? Well, if they're telling us that she was cast as Min in August, quite possible she filmed scenes before we didn't know about it. But a couple of days ago, and you have to understand, it's early October right now. This was just a few days ago. This was posted by her agency. Now, her agency posted this. I don't believe, in my heart of hearts, that they really knew what they were doing or saying when they did this, because they don't understand how passionate, I guess is the proper word that most Wheel of Time fans are. So this is what they put up. They put up, filming begins today for K. Alexander the Great on Amazon epic The Wheel of Time. Based on the high fantasy novels by Robert Jordan, Kay joins to play fan favorite Min Farshaw. And that's all we can say for now. Well, guess what? You've already said too much. Filming begins today. That means that Kay Alexander is not filming until Block 4. Now, we know she was in Prague recently. That's when she showed up, around when this was posted, a few days before that. So we knew she was there to film, but nobody really understood why this late. Now, if they're saying she's just starting filming now, so this is within the last, few days, that means that we have to meet her in Faldara. We have to meet her in Block 4, because in episodes 7 and 8, everyone is speculating that they're going to do Faldara, the Blight, and the Eye of the World, because a lot of the locations they're shooting in right now resemble the Blight and really do resemble what we believe would be Faldara. Now, if you haven't heard any of that stuff at all, I'll do a video on it probably in the next week or so. But if you want to read about it in the meantime, go to wheeltimeseries.com. They have a bunch of articles on the filming locations right now with a lot of pictures. And Narek from the Daily Trolloc and Reddit has also said a lot about that too. So I've left links down below to both those things if you want to go check that stuff out. So, if we meet Min and Faldara, what does this mean? Well, it means that Berlin is probably more than likely cut completely, which in my mind makes 100% sense. Now, I know a lot of you in the comments are going to tear me apart for saying that, because a lot of people, and I've seen this on Facebook, I've seen it on Reddit, I've seen it in the comments of my videos quite often, and I've seen it to a lesser extent on Twitter as well. People are very upset with any change at all, small or large, to what they envision in their head when it comes to the Wheel of Time series that's going to be on the screen. So they think, a lot of people think, that you should take the book, have the book in your hands, shot for shot, read it, same dialogue, same descriptions, same, all the way through without changing anything at all. The show would not work. It would really be terrible. I don't think it would work at all. Because then you're pigeonholing yourself into doing a bunch of stuff that probably doesn't work on screen. So there's that to begin with. 2, they've been very upfront and very honest with this from the very beginning. This is an adaptation. It is considered, basically, a lot of people consider it another turning of the wheel. Same characters, same basic plot, same. A lot of the stuff's going to be the same. There will be changes. There'll be changes to make it fit better for the screen, be changes to make sure that the actors and actresses involved aren't there for one shot, today, and then their contract states have to show up 4 years from now to finish the series as a main character. There's going to be a lot of different things like that. So how does this make sense for Min? Well, if they cut Berlin, that's a big savings right there, because it is a small city. They're only there for a very short period of time. It's not very important to the story at all, not really. You only have 2 things happen there that's important. They meet Min, and then they have the scene with the White Cloaks. And that's pretty much it. The scene with the White Cloaks can be done on the road. It can be done anywhere. Meeting Min can be done pretty much anywhere. And if they have her meet them in Faldara, that leaves a wide variety of possibilities open, because we don't see Min again until the Great Hunt in the White Tower. So, does it make sense, to see her for a little bit, the very first of Season 1, and then not see her again until, the beginning of Season 2? There's 6 or 7 episodes in between there where we don't see her at all when she's such a big character. Maybe not. What makes more sense is for her to show up in Faldara, and then from there travel with them to the tower when they actually start filming the Great Hunt later on. She becomes more of a staple character, more of a mainstay. We see her more often. She can forge a friendship on screen with Nynaeve, with Egwene, and then later on with Elaine, if they include her in the first season, or if we just meet her in the tower. No one's entirely sure. But it makes more sense that way to view it on screen. Now, my big speculation is, will she be traveling to the Blight with them? If she's a Borderlander and they meet her in the Borderlands and she has all of these talents, Moraine will probably recognize that she's going to be very useful to them in some way, shape, or form. Maybe she'll go with them to the Blight, maybe as a guide, maybe as Inkar's helper or something. It's quite possible. That way we get to see her come to the main stage in episodes 7 and 8, begin forming a friendship with the girls, begin forming a love relationship with Rand, and then she can just carry on seamlessly into Season 2, where they travel to the tower, and we get to see more of her without, missing her for so long. Because you got to understand, a lot of people who watch television shows, their attention span is small. So if she's gone for 6 or 7 episodes, and then she just pops back up, and she's all of a sudden this main character, they're going to go, and they'll have to go back and look, and they'll go, oh, it makes sense. For those of you who are big fans of the series, and don't like this change, just understand that the people who watch the show, yes, they will be fans of the series, like us. They'll be people who've read the books a number of times, people who are very passionate about it, who have had Wheel of Time involved in their life for a very long time. But we're not going to be the majority of people watching the show. The majority of people watching the show are going to be people who have never read the books before, probably have never heard of them. Just take a look at Game of Thrones or even The Witcher. I can't think of any better example than those two things. Very popular books, but the shows were infinitely more popular than the books. The viewers eventually would read the books, but a lot of them went in without reading it first. So it was built around that to make more sense to the viewers. So there's that. So, big takeaway from this is Min starts filming in Block 4. She's going to be in episodes 7 and 8, or 7 or 8, some combination thereof. And we're probably going to meet her in the Borderlands because episodes 7 and 8 seem to be focusing on Faldera and the Blight and the Eye of the World. So, there's that. Kind of neat. All right, so with that big bombshell out of the way, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments about this down below, we'll go to the very last piece of news, and this is Wheel of Time has a stunt coordinator. WheelOfTimeSeries.com did break this. Jan Petrina, now I probably said that wrong, I'm sorry, has worked on worked on Carnival Row, has worked on The Boys, has worked on other Amazon feature films, has worked for Marvel, has worked on Game of Thrones, has been a stunt coordinator for Chris Pratt, Chris Evans, you name it. This is a very, very large name in the stunt community. Very, very big name. This is just another example of how Wheel of Time is pulling out all the stops to make sure that this works well. Amazon is putting the money where their mouth is, and they're saying that we're going to do this right. So for those of you who are very worried, don't worry too much, because they do have the show's best interests at heart. So Rafe has said that a number of times, and they're getting the right people involved to make sure it's done well. It may not be a shot-for-shot remake, but it's going to be done really well, whatever it is, and it's going to be fantastic. Either way, I'm going to love it, because I've said from the beginning, they could change everything and just have a couple of the characters the same. I'd still watch it. I really would, because I really love the Wheel of Time, and I like the idea that this is another turning of the wheel. I think that's a very good way to put this. All right, so that's all the news I have for you today. Let me know what you think of what went on today in the comments. So, how do you feel about, possibly the, validation that Hightower dies from the Egwene scene? Let me know, how you feel about Kay Alexander showing up in episodes 7 and 8. Possibly meeting Min and Faldera, possibly having Min go into the Blight. That's my theory. Just wild spitballing speculation. No, there's no evidence to that, but that's what I think may happen. And then seeing her travel with him to the tower later on and being a more integral part of the story earlier on rather than later. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Try to keep it clean and nice, and here's to many more.